it is a wet qualifying session. This is going to be very, very interesting. For the first time in a while, we do have rain in quali. So, in Q1, everyone will be out on track immediately to try and get those times on the board. I imagine no one's going to be on medium compound tyres. They want to get their best lap time on that board as quickly as they can. We are 18 strong here this evening. If you joined us on Tuesday night, you would have seen a bit of a roller coaster of action. Some new faces to the NA division. And tonight we've got some new faces for the AT1 division. We've got Padge making his debut in the Alpine. We have Nomad in the Aston Martin. He, I believe, has raced once or twice before in the league, but certainly first appearance this season. Same story with Adrian in the Williams. First appearance this season in that Williams car. And a lot of the usual suspects. We've got TD, who I believe is first across the line to set a valid lap time. TD, of course, has removed all the assists for this new game. Last season was running a couple still, but completely turned off now. And he sets the ball rolling with a 28-2. Ross beats that by a few tenths and does a 27-9. What about 10-10? He crosses the line and does a 27-3. And Aya in the Aston Martin comes across the line to start a lap time. Zidane Smithy comes across the line just behind his teammate TD. A tenth and a half behind on a 28-3. We've got an AlphaTauri approaching the line. That will be George Plaster, who does a 27-5. Welcome back, George. Missed last week in Azerbaijan. Adrian pops in there with a banker 134.8, but we do know he can do a lot better than that. I've just realised my webcam is blocking the live chat. Let's rectify that. There we go. Good evening, Sun God. How are you, mate? Have a good stream. Thank you, Tucker. I'm very well, thank you. Yourself? Time's flooding in, and the rain will be flooding in about 5 minutes' time in game. It is going to be a wet qualifying session. Nomad kicks his first AT1 appearance this season with a 129.3, exactly the same time as Smaller Smiley. Not too bad company to be keeping. Asthma Frog across the line and goes 10th fastest, only a tenth away from Harjay. Greg has gone P8, Deflated and Josh, both Red Bulls in the top 5, separated by the most successful person in this league, Irosh J. But 1010 and George lead the way at this moment in time. We've got Padge, CTFD, Joseph Hales, who is the birthday boy here tonight, racing on his birthday. Fair play to him there. Could have gone out and done something special, or maybe this is the special thing for his week. So happy birthday, Joseph. I hope you have a fantastic race. No, before anyone asks, I am not singing anything tonight. The only thing I'm going to be singing is the praises of the person who gets pole position tonight. Killian is out on track, but not on a lap so far. Coming through the very slow and twisty Sector 3 that you can see in the background of Padge as he comes across the line in a few moments' time to set his one and only lap of the session so far. Adrian improves to a 27.8 and goes up into 4th fastest as people are starting to enter the pit lane after their first lap. Joseph Hales has set a lap time on the mediums. A little bit surprising, has to be said, because the rain is imminent, but he has done a P11 lap time, only to be displaced by CTFD, who goes 10th fastest. Padge has beaten his teammate by 1/10 of a second. And let's go on board then with Killian, who is the only driver yet to set a lap time. Good evening, Johnny B. How are you doing, buddy? Muddy? I almost called you Muddy. So Killian then, fresh off a absolutely fantastic race for him last week in Baku. In case you didn't know, he qualified second, finished second in the sprint race by only 38 milliseconds, and ended up winning the feature race. So Killian is on a rich vein of form from last week, and the rain, as you can see on your screen, has started to fall. This could be the best lap times we get. We've got a few drivers out on track, but who knows if they're on quicker lap times or if they've got the battery to go for a second run here. TD really happy with my lap to say I messed up the chicane. Well, TD currently sitting pretty in the top 7, and now the rain has started to fall. I think that's probably safe to say he will be comfortably through to Q2. Killian, with the rain at his disadvantage, goes 11th fastest. That's not too bad at all. Padge is not improving on this lap and will be coming into the pits. He is not in the drop zone. Asthma Frog is, and is in the pits. Nomad is out on there on the track, but I get the feeling this lap is not going to be the one. So Asthma has retired in P16 and will be out of Q1. Smaller Smiley is valiantly going for another run here. Who knows whether Smaller can improve and thus get through. He needs 0.4 of a second. No, scrap that. He needs 0.5 of a second to beat Padge. So that is the aim for Smaller Smiley. Comms Cam, hello Josh, how are you doing? I am feeling a bit scruffy today, so I apologise if I'm not very presentable. First sector split, and Smaller Smiley is a full second down, so that just shows how quickly this rain has stuck to the track. If you were watching 82 on Sunday last week, the rain stuck immediately at the Baku track, and within a lap we were boxing from slick conditions with no rain to intermediate tyres in full wet conditions. That's how quickly it was, and it seems that that is how quickly the rain has fallen here tonight so far. Nomad, as you say, is out on track, the only other driver to do so. Padge is retired, which means if Nomad or Smaller can go quicker than Padge, Padge will be out. However, seems to be a bit of a tall order here. The rain just too strong. Thank you for the birthday wishes, guys. Joseph Hills. Have to restart my Xbox. Hopefully you get that restarted in time. And as you can see, Smaller and Nomad into the pits. I imagine this is going to be a very abrupt end to Q1. TD has put in the Discord, he believes it's only wet in quali. Josh on his way to his first AT1 championship, and last season's winner was FRL Carito, who was the only driver last season to win a race aside from Josh, Killian and Deflated. There is confirmation that 1010 leads the way on a 27.3, however, with the rain starting to fall, those lap times are going to be a bit less close, shall we say. Exactly 2 seconds off the pace. Smaller Smiley heads out of Q1 for the first time, I think, this season. Actually, no, scrap that. He qualified 19th in Saudi Arabia. But joining him is Nomad in 17th place and Asthma Frog in 16th. And this, to me, looks like full wet weather. But it's inters. So let's get that up, make sure we know what tyres people are using. Didn't qualify in Saudi Arabia, and of course missed last week in Baku. His race finishes have been a little bit inconsistent, I want to say. He finished 4th in Bahrain, so gained a few places from 7th on the grid, but in Saudi Arabia only managed 15th and didn't score any points, whereas in Australia lost a couple of places from his qualifying spot, finished in P8. So one good result, one decent result, and one result to forget so far for Joseph Hales. He'll be aiming, I'm sure, to match one of his better results. That's a huge snap though through turn 2, and it's tricky enough in the dry conditions, to be honest, depending on your setup turn 2. So Joseph Hales just keeping control of that car as much as possible. Do not want to crash into the wall. That is the last thing you want to do. So this definitely won't be the best lap of Joseph Hales' career. So everyone out on track right now on a flying lap, with the exception of the reigning 81 champion Josh. And Joseph Hales will kick us off in Q2, a very wet Q2 with a 1 minute 40.8, and I have no idea if that's good or not, so please don't ask me. 10:10 goes 1.7 seconds quicker, and TD, what a lap time in the wet, a 38.6. Well, TD's been struggling in the dry as Harjay invalidates through the some call the Mickey Mouse section. His teammate Zidane coming through that same section now. 10:10, 39.1, as we said. Greg on a 39.6. CTFD has done a 40.0, and Padge does a 0.4, splitting CTFD and Joseph Hales. But that is a very handy lap from TD. May even be quick enough to get him through to Q3 at the first time of asking. That is absolutely unbelievable. George Plaster, 39.5, slots into P4. Aya, P7 on a 40.3, just out of Padge. Zidane Smithy splits the two AlphaTauris with a 39.5. Deflated Wiz on a 38.8, and currently occupies P2. What about Ross, our most successful driver in this league? Over 2,000 points scored in this league, and even he is struggling in the wet conditions. He's made a living pretty much, if he did earn money from this league, on beating people in wet conditions, but on this time seems to be just adapting to those conditions slowly but surely. Killian gets a banker in of a 42.3, but I imagine he will go much quicker than that on his next run. So just under 2 seconds separating the top 10. Ross slots in to P8 on a 39.8. Still 1.2 seconds off that monster lap time from TD. Just to put into perspective how good that lap time was from TD, his two previous 81 quali results were P17 in Bahrain and 19th in Australia. He's really been struggling out there in the 81 tier. Talks potentially of him giving 82 a go just to see what kind of pace he's at. Killian comes across the line, does the 39.1, and 13 milliseconds out of 10.10 up into third. but still a full half second off TD. Josh then, we'll go on board with. Chance for you at home to see how tricky these conditions are, especially for those running no assists, of which we have quite a few here tonight running absolutely nothing. Zidane, Padge back into the pits. A lot of these other drivers going for multiple runs on the same set of tyres. They'll be fueled up for a few laps and hoping that as they get some groove, some rhythm on this track in these conditions, they'll be able to go quicker on their second or third or maybe even fourth attempts. Padge and Harjay back out on track on a new set of tyres. Across the line comes Ross to do a 39.3, just behind his teammate 10.10 for tonight, and that's not too bad at all. Remember, it's not about being the quickest in this session, it's about not being in the bottom 5. Only the top 10 will go through to Q3, and I wonder therefore if TD has got some kind of wet setup on. George Plaster takes back control of P5 as he comes across the line and displaces Ross. And TD even surprised by his own pace. Tom, you running a wet setup or are you completely on dry setup? Here comes Josh, and it is P3. A few tenths away from his teammate Deflated. Adrian is one of the two drivers, along with Harjay, who had the most practice in Q1 on the wets, and ironically is the only one, as well as Harjay, to yet to set a lap time. Completely dry setup, just maybe might just be slightly more than everyone else, so maybe TD just running naturally higher wings will give him a bit more advantage in the corners. Adrian 39.2 pops him up into the top 6, and what about Harjay as he comes across at the end of sector 1? Needs to get a lap time on the board just to see how much he needs to improve by, or how much time he has in hand on the bottom 5. Currently we have Padge in the bottom 5, CTFD, Joseph Hales and Aya. Time to beat is Greg's 1 minute 39.6. And there is plenty of time between the top 10. 1 second separating the top 10. Big slide from Harjay into the slow chicane. 10.10 has called it quits already, so P5 is the best he can hope for in this session. He'll just be hoping and praying with his hands together and his head bowed that he can remain in the top 10 in 5 or 6 minutes time. TD says might be a dry Q3. That will be very interesting. Maybe the quali record could be up for grabs if we are fortunate. Here comes Harjay across the line. It's a 40.8, so needs to obviously get a much better lap time than that. Needs a 1.2 second improvement just to get P10. What about Padge? Those green tyres don't suit that orange and blue car, it has to be said, but doesn't really matter about how the car looks, it's about how quick it goes. Good evening to all 14 people watching. Hope you've had a fantastic week so far. If you're new around here, feel free to say hi. Feel free to follow if you want. Completely free to do. You can always change your mind. And Padge will not be completing this attempt. Instead then, let's go on board with Zidane. Adrian, the only one out there aside from Harjay on a flying lap, it would seem. Joseph Hale, CTFD back on track, as is Killian. Killian may be slightly more safe than the rest of the pack on that 39.1, currently up there in the top 4. But if it is going to be raining in Q3, he wants to get as much practice as possible. You only get 3 new sets of intermediate compound tyres. So for some of these drivers, they may decide in this session to fit a new set on. Goes it and goes, says Johnny B. Well, this is his chance. Zidane is currently safe. Harjay does a 39.5, so clearly getting more used to these conditions. Got a good lap time in there. And on his debut to the league, currently sits in 9th. Zidane, in that first sector, has lost an awful lot of time. Finds himself 3/4 of a second down. We'll need to hope. And he has backed off, so recharge the battery, go again. Next time around, hopefully you can get yourself into the top 10 to negotiate as you try and find the limit of what this track can do. That one was just an outlap, so Greg will be going on a flying lap now. Joseph Hales has not engaged DRS, so slow lap for him as well. About CTFD through the first sector, 2/10 to the good. Currently both Haas cars, both Red Bull cars, both Mercedes cars into the top 10. One of 5 different constructors at the moment heading out of Q2. CTFD has lost a little bit of time in that middle sector on his personal best. Still finds himself to the good, but has backed off, so maybe thinks he can go better than that. Aya back out on track. Started off in 82 this season, but in the last 2 races has qualified P11. I wonder if Aya is destined for another 11th place qualifying. Talking of double results for Aya, he finished 14th in both the sprint and the feature race last week in Baku. Aya will be hoping to do better than that here tonight. So Zidane then, 6/10 down on his personal best. I wonder if that rain is getting heavier. If so, we may not even see any improvement whatsoever, but certainly not too much improvement going on. Greg's last lap was a 40.0, so a whole second off what he managed on his personal best, and that'll be it for Greg as he slows down. Zidane is into the pit, so no improvement there. Adrian has taken the checkered flag to finish at the moment in 7th. I reckon this rain has just got a little bit heavier and the track has got a lot worse, so no improvements are going to be done. Most people out on track though. Ross does get an improvement and jumps up to 7th place. Should see him pretty safe. As we know, only at the moment Padge is out. The other 4 slots are in contention, up for grabs. CTFD, Joseph, Aya and Greg, the ones currently occupying those spots. Greg probably going to be out, we will confirm shortly. And Joseph pits, so P13 for Joseph. On his birthday, not what he was hoping. His perhaps inconsistent start to the season has continued. Aya, only 1.5 tenths down. If he can get a good last sector in, may find himself with an outside chance at a top 10 finish. CTFD crosses the line and narrowly misses out on a spot in Q3. Finds himself 8 milliseconds behind Greg, and Aya's gone too deep into the penultimate corner, and that is going to be it for Aya. He's not going to qualify 11th for the 3rd race in a row. This time it is going to be unlucky P13. Joseph Hill says there is so much time in his lap, but I imagine the conditions are just so difficult to get it right. Well, we need something absolutely perfect. And someone take a screenshot. IIRL TD is top of the leaderboard. Usual suspects: deflated Josh, Killian, 1010, George, Ross, Adrian, RJ, Zidane into the top 10. RJ, really good lap under pressure there on his debut in the league with a 39.5. He'll be happy with a P9 in Q2 and making his first appearance in Q3. Whereas Padge, Joseph Hales, Aya, CTFD, Greg dropping out in Q2. Joseph Hales, first time I haven't made Q3 this season, aside from, of course, Saudi Arabia, where he didn't qualify. We'll have to keep our beady eyes out for when that rain stops falling. If it stops falling, I'd say with anything more than 6 minutes left in the session, probably get some dry running in for the end, and it could just be who gets out on the soft tyres first, who gets that quick lap time in on their final run, and obviously you want to maximise the performance of your final lap. Any mistakes in that final run could send you all the way down to P10 for qualifying here tonight. I'm not used to sitting out on a quali session, feels weird. That was me on Tuesday night. 16 runners, I qualified 16th. Up the P16. Does mean if you head out in Q1 you're sitting there for half an hour without driving. 5+ on the Delta now, which means it is going to be, as things stand, we're going to get some dry running. Rain is only just falling. You're a lap 1 master anyway. Well, I'll let the chat be the judge of that. I am not going to confirm nor deny. George Plaster then has had an incredible start to the season. Only raced a couple of times in the F2 division in season 2. Since then has taken by storm. Quali hasn't really been his forte. Qualified 6th in Bahrain, 5th in Saudi, and that one is invalid. So on then with Mercedes of Zidane. He'll be the first one. But George has been a lot better in the races. In Bahrain he was having a fantastic race. Aside from a late spin, probably would have got on the podium. Instead he finished in 10th and then won back-to-back races in Saudi Arabia and in Australia. Zidane kicks us off with a 36.6. Adrian beats that by half a second and does a 36.1, and Ross goes even quicker than that by a 10th with a 36.0. What about Deflated coming to the end of his first run? And it's a 35.1. Track is clearly getting quicker. The longer these drivers stay out on track, the quicker they're going to get. But obviously they need to box and prepare for the dry weather if it comes. Basically dry tyres now, says TD. That's why he and 1010 are still in the pits. I imagine we're going to be seeing some soft tyres enabled soon, as Josh goes quickest by half a 10th. RJ across the line goes 4th fastest, not too bad at all, beating Ross. Nice company to be in your first AT1 race. Oh, this food is sat here and it's really tempting me. So George Plaster may decide to finish this lap, may decide just to duck into the pits here. He does come around to complete the lap with limited battery, and it's a 35.6, good enough for P4 at the moment. DRS is now enabled. The rain, as you can see, has stopped. And people will be heading into the pits. Is this some kind of joke? So people coming back into the pits. Only George and Zidane out on track. 5 minutes scran in the 5-minute break. No one yet braving the conditions to come out on a set of dries. Zidane being out on track will actually help everyone. This could be a monster lap from Zidane here. 1.1 seconds to the good would put him around Killian on a 35.5. But we'll have to wait and see whether Zidane finishes this lap or whether he'll be into the pits. He does finish the lap, nice to see. And it should be pretty good. 35.1, 4 milliseconds ahead of Deflated, splitting the two Red Bulls. However, is that lap time going to be meaningless? Who knows? I guess Zidane's strategy is get as good lap time as possible on the inters, just in case the track isn't good enough for slicks, but it definitely seems to be good enough at the moment. No rain falling. You can start to see a dry line appearing where the lighter grey is on the track. That is a drier line. Is going to give you more grip, and in the next few minutes the track is only going to get drier and drier. I reckon as good a lap time as that was from Zidane, it's not going to be his best, and I believe. Let's have another chip before it gets interesting. Still 3 drivers in the pits, with 2 of them coming out now. Josh and Ross, just Zidane left, who is coming out of the pits now. It's going to be pretty close actually if Zidane's going to get another lap time on. There's only 1 minute 30 left of the session. I don't think, unless Zidane absolutely floors this outlap, I don't think there's enough time for him to get round. No, Joseph. Just no. And this could be a battle of who crosses the line last to set a new lap time. At the moment, it could be Ross in the Haas car. So Ross could have the best possible conditions at his disposal. So RJ throttling through sector 1, and we'll have a look at this split as he comes out of turn 9. There's a little mistake there somewhere, but it won't matter too much. It's 2.9 seconds up. This track is clearly destined for the dry conditions now, which means all you need to do is try and get a perfect lap in. Doesn't really matter when you cross the line. There's a lot of traffic, and we may even be seeing a Monza flashback to in real life a few seasons ago. A lot of these drivers may not even get across the line. Josh has got a 5-place grid for illegal blocking. That is all to do with people backing up and trying not to let their rivals get a lap time in. Harjay has invalidated, and that is absolutely crucial. The only person who didn't make it over the line was Zidane, as we suspected. TD then is going to be the first person to possibly get a quicker lap time on the dry tyres, and he's got plenty of space, whereas you can see there's a huge snake of cars through the end of sector 1 now who could be holding each other up. RJ has finished his session. 35.9 is the best he can do, and currently P6, but as the more times come in on the slick tyres, just like George's, 1:27.6 takes provisional pole, but we have to wait for another 6 or 7 lap times to see if he will take his second pole position this season. Don't worry, Zidane. Happens to the best of us. Happened to me the other day in a different league. TD then was P1 in Q2 on the inters. What can he manage on the slicks? 27.6 to beat, and TD goes provisional pole by fractions. Killian beats him by a few tenths of a second as 27.3. 10.10, 27.8. Ow, they all came across the line at once. And Josh has got pole position. I mean, I'm trying to do stuff here as a commentator, and flipping everyone decides to cross the line at the same time. So this is the final result. Josh gets pole position by a tenth and a bit. However, that 5th place grid for blocking sends him down to P6, which means Killian will start on pole position for the Miami Grand Prix. TD is best qualifying, I reckon, since season 2. P3, but will start P2 on the grid. George Plaster up there in P4, but will be P3, and 1010 will start 4th on the grid. Ross will start P5, next to his teammate, and a few drivers there towards the back end of the top 10, as we predicted. Just couldn't get that lap time on the soft compound tyre. TD is absolutely dumbfounded. A P17 and a P19 in quali so far for TD in AT1 this season, but a P3 from out of nowhere will start on the front row of the grid, and our 5-minute break begins. You guessed it, I'm eating some more chips. I'm not going to go as far to eat the fajitas, that's a bit too messy. 29 laps here at Miami. We have one pole sitter, well, technically 2. Josh took pole position, but with that 5th place grid starts in P6. Killian then will be the one to start on pole here tonight. P13 fails to pull up in the pit box. Smaller Smiley and Nomad bring this formation lap to a close. Hopefully, fingers crossed, ayahuasca is not disqualified from this Grand Prix, as everyone is just loading in to the race lobby. Oh, and that's an Alpine deciding to drive off. Is that a Harji? It is. We've got a glitch. We've got a glitch. $27, $35. Wow, do I look 35? But oh, what a shame. The race is starting. We have to ignore this, and let's try and get these tyres on ASAP so we can confirm whether people are on the right tyres. Killian leads TD into turn 1. TD saying before the restart, or during the restart, sorry, that he's not expecting to hang with these guys up front. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously these runners on the medium compound tyre will be looking to get a good start. Zidane looking to get ahead of Adrian and maybe even Josh, as Harjay is going backwards on the soft compound. It's a bad turn 9 for him. I can confirm, guys, I'm 28 years old. Turn 29 in a few months. 10-10 ahead of TD in the same place he got him on the original lobby. Harjay going down the inside there of Greg, who on those harder compound tyres just isn't in a position to fight back right now. We've got drivers going too wide into the Mickey Mouse slow section. Into the wall goes Harjay, and he has lost a lot of ground. Thankfully he's not out. He might have some damage, but nothing too drastic, and that is just the problem with that section when you're going really close with other cars. Easily done. Ross ahead of George, and there is a big, excuse the term, cluster mess, for the want of a better word that I'm not allowed to say on stream. And there is a lot of fighting. You've got Ross trying to swing it around the outside, put some overtake on. They're going 3 wide, and it's a nudge. And Josh has hit someone. That's really bad commentating, but he's hit someone. And you saw who it was. I can't remember who it was. They're all... Oh my word, this is... yeah. This is a mess now. Joseph Hales, bit of understeer. He's getting overtaken. Oh, and he's had to correct a snap, and he's into Zidane. It's a mess. And I think it was TD who was affected in turn 1. He's all the way down in 17th place now, and I imagine the steward Mark will be extremely busy. Late braking going on. They're going 3 wide. What on earth? Oh, and Nomad loses traction. Contact with someone, with Greg, with Smaller. They all get through relatively unscathed, but it all seems a little bit too frantic. Restarts tend to do that. People get impatient for sitting in lobbies without any driving going on. As a result, you let your guard down, you become sloppy, you outbrake yourself. We got Padge in the background, just letting TD through. I'm not sure if Padge has damage or whether he's doing what he said he never does, even though we know he does it. That won't make sense to you, that sentence, but it does to me in Padge. We got Aya, that's a little bit too late on the brakes, and we'll have to let Zidane through. And what about TD now? Will he follow his teammate past Ayahuasca in that Aston Martin? You can't park there, sir. Someone is an amazing driver, thank you very much. What a messy start of the race, it certainly is, and as we said, restarts do tend to have that effect. Nomad gets past Smaller for 11th place, and it seems like everything has just calmed down. Smaller Smiley spent the whole of Tuesday's race, or 29 laps. I think the biggest gap between him and Ross the whole race was 1.03 seconds. Yeah. Smaller Smiley and Ross on Tuesday night were separated by 1 second the whole race, even through pit stops. That is unbelievable, I imagine. You saying to yourself, but that is true. Will we see any more battles reminiscent of that here tonight? We've got CTFD, who's had an absolutely fantastic start up into P8. Ross ahead on the hard compound tyre, and Ross's red light is flashing. That means he is very low on ERS right now, which means either Ross has spent a lot of it already on purpose, or he has accidentally left it on, and as a result CTFD will be in a much more comfortable spot. You can start to see getting in the slipstream. He is gaining, but is he gaining by enough? Ross gives him the room on the insides, side by side, and in the end Ross just concedes that position. Doesn't want to fight too much, lose too much time to the other guys around him. Nomad and Smaller Smiley once again fighting hard. Bit of a snap from Nomad. Corrects it and keeps his car pointing in the right way. What is ERS? Please tell us why. The Sun God 26. You played the game, Lolly, you know what ERS is. So Ross got back past CTFD with the DRS going into the penultimate couple of corners. Retakes ownership of 7th place. Joseph Hales, the birthday boy himself, who qualified in 14th place, out of position, fighting his way back up into the top 10. Electric rude slipping. No. Have another gas. 10-10 leads Killian by a second. We'll need to use those medium compound tyres well in this opening stint. Try and get a bit of a gap. And of course does not want to let Killian be in the DRS zone. CTFD, this time Ross does slick it round the outside and tries to maintain position, does so rather nicely. Joseph Hales trying to get in on the fight as well. Electric rear soup, yeah, that's it. Joseph Hales not using any electric rear soup at the moment. Oh, and oh my word. Bit of a nudge from Joseph on Ross. CTFD. P7 now. And Ross looking to fight back. We'll have the DRS on these two. Joseph Hales gives that one up. Bit of a nudge from Ross. But no harm done for CTFD, who stays 7th. His teammate Adrian is right on the back of the two-time reigning 81 champion Josh. Killian now 1.7 behind the race leader. 10-10 has responded to Killian trying to get in that DRS range last lap, and 10-10 has put the hammer down. Either that or Killian has made a bit of a mistake. However, Deflated and George trying to stick in that DRS range and stay in the battle for second. Adrian meanwhile taking on a fight of his own. Nomad with the first 3-second time penalty involved in a big battle with Smaller Smiley. Has Asthma Frog, Zidane, TD, Aya all right behind. Smaller will not have the DRS. K-Flix has joined. K-Flix is a new member to the league. I believe he will be racing on Tuesday nights in the no assist. Oh! It's a spin from Smaller, but there was contact there with Nomad. And it looked like there was some late moving in the braking zone. A bit of weaving going on. Trying to jostle for position on track. And that is a collision, not in the braking zone, sorry. My mistake. That is on the straight with no brakes involved. So that potentially will be something for Mark the steward to deal with. Smaller Smiley hasn't lost an awful lot of ground. He's just lost a load of places. That's obviously Smaller will be incredibly frustrated. Asthma Frog, the latest driver to test Nomad. Greg has got past CTFD, and Deflated Wee have just made a move up into second past Killian. 10-10 leads this race by 2.6 seconds now. Josh has pulled a bit of a gap on Adrian, but he's 4 seconds out of the podium picture here. Asthma Frog gets passed by TD, who had a remarkable quali session. Started off dry for Q1, then the rain fell. TD in Q2 managed to top the timing screens. Amazing achievement considering he qualified 19th and 17th so far this season in 81. TD ended up in a mixed condition for Q3, qualifying 3rd on the grid. Already an incident involving TD at turn 1. On board then with this bunch. Battle for P2. The longer that these three fight, happier 10-10 will be. 2.8 second lead. Killian could be the one to use the strategy to try and get 10-10 on the second stint. However, it's going to be not easy, because wherever 10-10 comes out, Killian's just going to have to make ground on him. 10-10 will be making a pit stop before Killian, which means he'll have the benefit of the newer tyres before Killian does as well. So by the time Killian comes out of the pits, he might find himself 6 or 7 seconds off of 10-10. Josh is losing ground to this top 4, and the only way I can explain that is the fact that Killian and George are using DRS. Josh does not have such luxury. Good battle between Ross and Joseph here. Behind we've got Greg still battling with CTFD. TD has passed Aya into 11th place, and TD's pace probably better than he was expecting. And he's got Aya out of electric rear soup range. And here comes Joseph, but he's choosing not to overtake. RJ finds himself last and victim to that horrible formation lap glitch earlier on, which we did restart for. Boxed on lap 1 did RJ, and finds himself 16 seconds off of the next driver, Padge. CTFD making moves. Has found 81 life trickier. He was the runaway 82 champion last season. Bossed it in all respects of the word. Nomad is out of the race, and there's a safety car. And where on earth has he crashed? Because I can't see. Can't see him on track. Chat, if you know where Nomad retired, please let me know, because that was proper weird, and there is a full course safety car because of it. Harjay is onto the soft compound. Zidane has also boxed, and Padge has sped under the safety car Delta and has a drive-through penalty. Wow, he cannot serve that under the safety car, so he's going to have to wait until the safety car comes in and then serve it within 3 laps. So that is unfortunate for Padge. He could have sped by 2 seconds, he could have sped by 1 millisecond, who knows. But either way, that is bad to worse to Padge. And leaders are boxing. Here comes 10-10. I imagine it will be a set of hard compound tyres to the end of the race. What about Killian though? And it is George Plaster. Killian's onto mediums, so he's going to try and take those 18 laps here. Or 19 laps I should say. George Plaster on the hards, as we're all expecting Adrian will be on the hard compound. Josh is now on the mediums. He crashed pit lane. Wow. So Nomad was into the pits and made a huge boo-boo. And that is the reason for this safety car. Small Smiley has stayed out, the only one of these 16 runners yet to box. There is the clip in the chat. I can't watch it at the moment. But in case you want to see what actually happened with the safety car coming out and my confusion with it, feel free to watch at your leisure. Can only see his dog get stuck in the pit lane, and even Padge is wondering what's happened to Nomad. Padge has decided to call it quits, doesn't want to do the drive-through penalty and be 20 seconds behind the pack, just decides to call it and grab an early bath. Lap 11. A chance for us to reset then, and to consider the new context of this race. Smaller Smiley has pitted, and Greg has pitted again. And Greg has just put those mediums on the car, so I wonder if what he's going to be doing differently here. It's a front wing change, and it's a new set of mediums. So Greg got some damage somewhere, wanted to fix it, the game didn't fix it, so he'll just have to drop a few places here whilst he gets a new wing, but long term that's going to be beneficial for him. Hello Mason, how are you doing, buddy? Nomad's in his land, we're going into the pits at the same time by the looks of it, so maybe happen between them. Who knows? And we'll have to wait and see. Definitely, I think Snacks has called it right. Looks like there was some contact with the barrier. That's what he's saying in the Discord. Strange one for sure, says Mason. I agree. So, Season 3 we had 2 incidents from the stewards. Season 4 we had 1 incident. We were hoping we would get no incidents tonight, but we've already had quite a number of incidents, both stuff the drivers can control, stuff the drivers can't control with that forced restart we had earlier on. Safety car will be in this lap, lap 13 we will be getting underway. I wonder what 1010's strategy here is. Safety car is just coming around the final corner now to enter the pit lane. 1010 can go any time from now that he wants. Just being cautious. Shades of what I was doing on Sunday night. And he's gone for it before the final corner. Deflated in P2. As they come across the line, your order is 1010, Deflated, Killian, George, Josh, Adrian, Joseph, Ross, CTFD. TD is back into the top 10 after that turn 1 incident earlier on that saw him fall all the way to P17 at the time. Zidane is just behind his teammate in 11th, Asma Frogan, Aya, Harjay in 14th, and we got Smiley and Greg rounding out the field. We got all 3 compounds of tyres on this stint, and anything, I mean anything, could happen. Looks like the one to have a poor restart here looks to be Adrian, as he's already dropped out of DRS range of Josh. Coincidentally, the safety car really helped Josh. He was 4 seconds back. Joseph Hales goes for it. It's a bit of an ambitious dive bomb, and I imagine Adrian is probably thinking, what are you doing? But Joseph does get that move done, albeit aggressively. You could decide at home. what you think of that one. Slipstream is paying off here. Ross and Adrian now side by side then. They avoid contact with each other. Plenty of fighting on this safety car restart. Lap number 14. Half race distance after this lap. And this fight looks like it's only going to get more intense. Adrian with the time penalty. He'll be carrying. Ooh, CTFD there. He's just gone a bit too wide. Turning slightly into TD, but no harm done. I imagine TD will be happy he's just got that move done. Killian and Deflated swapping places into the braking zone, but Killian staying ahead of Deflated. Full send from Joseph, certainly. There's battles everywhere as Joseph Hales. You just see him going across that chicane, the inside curb, and getting a 3-second time penalty for multiple track limits warnings. Once you get your third warning, you get a 3-second time penalty. No DRS, remember, until start of lap 15, which 10:10 is coming across the line to start. As we were saying, this safety car massively benefited Josh. He was 4 seconds behind the battle for second, so Josh, even though he is sat in 5th place right now, we know what he's capable of. I imagine Josh will be playing the patient game right now. He did that in Bahrain. He fell from 2nd to 7th in the pits by double stacking with his teammate Deflated under a safety car, but somehow fought his way back up from P7 to P2 again. So Josh is an expert at being patient behind people, waiting for gaps to appear, and then going for the move when the time is right. Josh is an expert at that. I imagine he'll be doing similar stuff here tonight. I'm not even going to predict where Josh is going to finish, because genuinely I do think he's going to finish second somehow. Killian and we need to not battle for a couple of laps to get in the DRS of 10:10. That is a very good strategy. Who knows whether they are civil enough to let it happen. TD with a time penalty, and here comes perhaps this DRS strategy train that you were referring to. Can Deflated use those hard compound tyres to gain on 10:10, or will he have to rely on Killian to do it on those quick and medium compound tyres? The problem with Killian is he has no ERS left. Rear light flashing at the rear of the car. And in the end, this battle is only holding them up. They've gained no ground on 10:10 in that opening sector. Padge has had a bit of an off at the final corner. He's got going again, and no safety car of any description is deployed. Deflated and Killian again trying to use that DRS to their advantage. No dive bomb from Joseph to Adrian this time around. Joseph perhaps learning from the first occasion a couple of laps ago. Joseph has got a really good exit of that chicane. Adrian gets a better drive onto the back straight. Joseph though is still close enough. Adrian has DRS of his own and defends with it. Smaller making moves back up the field after contact with Nomads on the pitch straight before the safety car came out. Smaller Smiley fighting his way back up the field. Will obviously have to box again on those soft tyres. They won't last very much longer. Maybe a couple of laps at best. Same with Harjay. He'll need to box off of them onto a set of mediums pretty soon. 10-10 can run away with this the more they battle. Definitely have seen that before. Harjay boxing this lap. Just not quite been the race for Harjay. His debut here tonight had a good showing in quali. Is onto a medium set of tyres. Doesn't choose to retire. I think that's a pretty good call, to be honest. The safety car could come out here at any point and bunch this field up. Harjay will be right in the running again. What's happening in George Land? He's been patiently waiting behind Deflated. He's been watching Killian and Deflated battle for the past few laps. Same with Josh. He's closest he's been to George in recent memory. Still, George witnesses another pass ahead of him. But still, this strategy doesn't seem to be working. Deflated is losing time to the race leader. There goes Killian down the outside, who is desperately hoping that no other driver makes contact with him tonight. He's had 2 races where he's felt that he was unfairly affected by contact and has actually dropped out of the points for that race, for those 2 races. It was only last week in Baku where he qualified second, finished second in the sprint race and won the feature race that Killian's season has now kick-started. Lost half a second that lap to 10-10. Very astute analysis there from Mason. You should join me on comms. Be a good team. However, what we don't know at this stage is how much ERS people are using. Trying to look at some of the rear of the cars to see if anyone's blinking with the red light, but no one is. I imagine 1010 will be using some and saving some at the same time. He won't be going flat out with the ERS. He knows he needs to save it, but he's also, if he uses none, he's going to get caught immediately. You get a stage fright. This battle is fascinating because every lap Killian and Deflated are swapping places, and in doing so they're losing time to the leader. But the more that they battle, the more encouragement I would take if I was George or Josh. I'd be saying, right, these two are battling every lap here. One of them's bound to make a mistake. One of them's bound to have a bad corner and lose some time, just like Deflated has had there through turn 9. And Josh might be thinking, well, this is my opportunity perhaps to get up into 3rd place. That's the risk with battling so much. Adrian, Joseph and Ross pretty close in the background. DRS for Joseph, looking perhaps for another move. Smaller and TD battling here. Smaller gets that move done. Both drivers with 3-second time penalties. CTFD could be on for his 2nd points finish of the season. After back-to-back DNFs in Australia and Azerbaijan. Greg seems to be one who has not benefited from this safety car. He had to change his wing, so he did lose a lot of track position to drivers under the safety car conditions, but was running really well in the points before the safety car came out. So Greg will feel a little bit hard done by here that, well, I was safely in 10th place and all of a sudden now I'm battling for P13 and have about 4 seconds to gain if I want some points tonight. But if he makes his way up into 12th place, could find himself jumping out of Smaller and TD on time penalties. Definitely doable. Asthma Frog just not quite at the races, it would seem, for whatever reason. Could be a setup problem, just could be a track issue, not confident perhaps at this specific track. Asthma, 2 races so far this season, no points scored. DNF last week. 2 weeks ago, sorry, in Saudi Arabia. Make that 3 weeks ago. Question now, when is Smaller Smiley going to box? He will need to get rid of those soft tyres immediately. And I imagine he's going to be going on to another set of soft tyres. Deflated getting pretty close to the back of Killian. 10-10 comes round the final corner to start lap 21. 9 laps to go. And 10-10 leads by 2.6 seconds. And George Plaster here. That was the closest he's been to an overtake in the last few laps. Smaller Smiley has boxed. I imagine it'll be a new set of softs, and indeed it is. Smaller could have a pretty easy shot at a fastest lap here, if he wants it. He'll definitely be beating Harjay, who's not started his 21st lap yet. Looks a little bit like on the track map to what I was doing on Tuesday night in my first NA race. I didn't spin or anything, but just wasn't very quick. If you're new around here, we are II Racing League, exclamation mark IIRL in the chat for more information about our league, exclamation mark standings for the up-to-date standings from the previous round in Baku, which was the first of our 6 sprint races this season. We'll be mirroring the full F1 calendar of all 23 races. You can check all that on the standings page. Here comes Killian. Sun starting to shine in Miami. Bit of contact with Killian and Deflated. Deflated had a bit of a snap, had to correct it. And is this George's opportunity? Deflated not getting that car turned in as well as George. George maybe running higher wings. That might be where Deflated hasn't really felt that much pressure on the straights from George behind. Josh will be thinking, well, I've been behind these now for 11 laps and my chance hasn't come. It comes Deflated. And Deflated had to back out. 3 races and 3 streams a week on this channel. Tuesday for the no assist tier. This is Thursday night's assist tier 1, where pretty much any assist is allowed. And assist tier 2 will be running on Sunday night at the same track, Miami. Next week will be round 6 at Imola. Adrian and Ross swapping places. Joseph Hales gets the both of them staying ahead. Here comes Adrian now. Ross around the outside. Killian the Deflated swapping places out of turn 3. And this battle is just getting even more tasty. Side by side through the S section. A bit of wheel contact. Deflated forced to the outside route. George here, if he can get a good turn 9, might find himself in a really good position to make an overtake here. And Deflated's got a little bit too much on the outside curb. George sniffs his opportunity, puts on the ERS. He's got a super slipstream. He's got the DRS. Killian doesn't have it. Deflated is side by side. Killian has been passed by 2 people. George gets 2 drivers here. Beautiful dive bomb from Deflated, but can he hold on? George, they're going side by side. This is surely George's corner, and Deflated just backs out. Beautiful double overtake from George there. All led from a mistake. Tiny mistake, albeit, from Deflated Wee. And now Killian has lost 2 places because of it. How are the pens looking? That's a good question. Oh, safety car, and Asthma Frog has crashed. You can see at turn 9. Full course safety car, and the question is, are people gonna box? 1010 is obviously in, and everyone is following. George Plaster now in 2nd place. This is music to his ears. Josh and Killian will be relieved because those mediums are going to go off soon anyways, so everyone is in. No one is staying out here. Smaller Smiley might stay out. As a result, he might jump up into the top 10. CTFD, I thought for a second he put on those hard tyres, but no, he's just getting rid of them. Smaller Smiley stays out and is 5th place right now. But everyone is in. Smaller Smiley, doesn't really need to box, to be honest. He's those soft tyres will make it. Sure, he might find himself under pressure from Joseph, Josh, Ross, Adrian behind. But to be honest, it's a risk worth taking for Smaller Smiley. Pen's even more important now, and here they are. Smaller Smiley, Joseph Hales, Adrian and TD, all with 3 seconds. This brings Zidane back into the fray. Brings Greg possibly back into the points if he can play his cards right in this last 5 laps. CTFD sitting pretty there, on the cusp of a P9 finish perhaps. Josh and Ross could find himself in the top 6. And the person who this has hindered is our race leader 1010. Had a comfortable 3-second advantage. Now has to find some good defense maneuvers. Has to find another burst of pace to break the DRS from behind. Not going to be a lot of time to open up gaps. Evening Steely, how are you doing? You are joining us for the final 5 laps, and a safety car came out last lap for Asthma Frog, who unfortunately crashed at the very long turn 9. This is our 2nd or 3rd safety car. I want to say 3rd. I think Nomad crashed into the pits earlier on, around lap 9 or 10. Padge got a drive-through under that aforementioned safety car, so he called it quits. RJ called it quits as well after a race that just wasn't quite going his way. And Asthma Frog, as we just mentioned, crashing at this very corner here that we are spectating. Got taken out of your BRSK League race when you were on for a while. That is so annoying to hear. I'm very sorry to hear that. Joseph Hales has dropped, by the way. He's had a bit of a mistake. And the birthday boy now finds himself plumb last after running what was P6. So that is a huge mistake from Joseph, big enough to lose him 8 places. He'll be hoping for more of the same. Yellow light still flashing on the safety car, then it stops. 1010 will back up the field. He's doing exactly what he did the first time around, going really slow on this back straight. Safety car coming round the final couple of corners now. 1010 keeping a nice steady pace. Last time on the restart, 1010 went just before the final corner, and he's done the same thing again. Deflated looking for a move on George, but of course you can't overtake until lap 26 starts. And DRS will only be enabled on lap 28, so we're only going to get 2 laps here of DRS. Adrian and TD in the background swapping places. Adrian trying to sling it around the outside, but I'm afraid for Adrian that's TD's corner, and 2 Williams colliding. Adrian drew the short straw and has looked like he's been nudged by his teammate. He could have just dropped it by himself, but it definitely looked like CTFD tagged him. A yellow flag. Adrian is off. There's going to be no other safety car, so Adrian has been unfortunate there. Perhaps Josh past Smaller Smiley already, but now finds himself 1.6 away from that opening quartet. So Dan Smithy, 3-second time penalty, or is running in 12th place at the moment, so won't really lose any places with Joseph and Adrian behind him on time penalties as well. Deflated looks to be the one making moves. Bit of lag for George, thankfully doesn't cause any incidents or any contact, and we're seeing this again. The more that Deflated is battling for P2 here, it's given 1010 an opportunity to get a gap. No DRS this lap either. Lap 28 it will be enabled, so if 1010 can stay like he is right now, 1 second ahead, should be Gucci for a win that he has totally deserved. Adrian's into the pit lane and gets a speeding penalty. However, it doesn't really matter, he's called it quits. Shame to see from Adrian, was having a fantastic race before that incident spin, whatever it was. Adrian hasn't raced for a while, so it's nice to see him back on the grid. Josh now 2 seconds off of this leading 4. Can't remember the last time I saw a race in which Josh was unable to catch this top 4. George Plaster doesn't quite have the pace of 1010 at the moment, and 1010 is on for a well-deserved win. Deflated, just letting off, doesn't want to cause a collision in that final corner. Killian has had a huge moment and has lost a lot of time, and Josh is now within DRS range of the Alfa Romeo driver. DRS is now enabled. Smaller Smiley could be making a move on TD. Both of them have 3-second time penalties. CTFD and Aya and even Greg might find themselves finishing in the points here. Joseph Hales, the birthday boy, into the pits for a new set of tyres, possibly for a fastest lap attempt, but he won't be getting any points this race. Well, as we come to an end of a frantic race, the lobby restart earlier on seemed to create a bit of an impatient mindset on some of the drivers. We've seen it before in this tier where restarts have happened and it's just caused the drivers to get frustrated and lose their head. We've had a few incidents to deal with tonight, or the steward may have to deal with after the race. The battling on track has been both phenomenal and frantic. CTFD now looking for a move, but didn't quite get the exit he wanted out of that slow section in sector 2. Of course, some of these penalties may get removed by the steward, so you can't really assume that you're going to finish ahead of someone ahead of you on time penalties. In the moment you get that position on the line, but doesn't necessarily mean you're going to keep it. George Plaster here under huge pressure from Deflated. Both of these drivers should finish on the podium. 10-10, what has been a thoroughly remarkable performance, holding off these incredible drivers behind him. But he has done really well managing the pace. The safety car came out and ruined his 3-second lead. He's built up another 3-second lead, and here is Deflated. DRS wide open, but he's not going for the move. We all know what that means. Out of this slow section, there is one final DRS straight into the final 2 corners, and I hope, for the love of George, that he has saved up a lot of ERS to defend here. Needs a good exit, does Plaster. Plasters the throttle to the floor. 4/10 is the game that Deflated needs. Red light flashing for George. We all know what that means. Takes the inside line. Look at the overspeed from Deflated. And Josh has done exactly the same. Red Bull Strat supreme in this final lap of the Miami Grand Prix. And that Red Bull rocket ship has powered them to a 2-4 finish from a 3-5 position. 10-10 takes a truly well-deserved win. George Plaster, well deserving of that podium after the move on Killian earlier. Josh gets Killian on the line. Ross in P6. Greg finishes in the top 7. Good news for him. CTFD with his 2nd points finish of the season. Again, thoroughly well deserved from his perspective. TD after a remarkable 3rd place in quali, and after braving a huge incident into turn 1 where he dropped all the way back to the back of the field, recovers to P9 even with that time penalty he had. So good job there from TD, who will feel both probably disappointed and pleased with the damage recovery. Aya gets a point. Good job there from Aya, keeping it clean ahead of Smaller on the line, who did get a time penalty. Zidane, similar story, time penalties just cost him in the end. Joseph Hales, well, the birthday boy has not had the race he was hoping for tonight, but a very happy birthday to you, Joseph. As we said, the 5 DNFs we all know about: Adrian, Asmafrog, RJ, Padge, Nomads. Don't get me wrong, I'm annoyed, but I'm really happy with my pace, and I think I might be able to get 3 seconds off that. Well, I was saying exactly that, TD. I think you'll be both disappointed and happy with how that turned out for you. And just like we said earlier, don't assume that those 3 second time penalties are going to stick. The steward could remove them. But 10-10 takes a very well deserved win. Ten's eighth race win in his 81st race here tonight for the league. And let's have a look at the standings. Deflated went into this round leading George by 14 points. George has lost 3 points to Deflated, which means Deflated now leads the championship by 17 points. Josh again failing to beat his teammate. Not once this season has Josh beaten Deflated in a race. That is an incredible stat, which I never thought I'd hear myself say. Josh, our 2-time reigning 81 champion. CTFD double dive bombed into the last corner. L. Well, CTFD, I've been very impressed. I don't know if there was contact between you and Adrian when Adrian span. That was hard to make out from our perspective, but obviously, congrats on that points finish. And we hope for your sake the steward doesn't give you a penalty for that. Well, you may deserve one, who knows? I don't know.